Welcome to the Fermented Homestead. My name is Anna, and today I'm going to show you how I can ground beef. And I've done this many times in the past, and I've worked out my own little system that I find works out pretty well for me, and I thought I would share that with you. I wanted to make sure to let you know I am still a pretty newbie canner, so if you're wanting to can ground beef for the first time, you definitely want to look up and check your resources, especially like Blue Book of Canning or the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Those are great references to look up. So do that before you can. So all I have is just my small little pot here, and I'm going to cook each pack of ground beef. I'm going to put about 5 of them in at a time, lightly brown them, nothing too crazy, and then put them in, well, I'll just show you the next step when we get to the next step. How about that? And while we're getting this whole thing started, we have the canner here. It is starting to warm up, and I'm just going to keep it warm, not hot. You know, like I don't even want to see any steam really coming off of it, and that's what we're going to keep it at. Okay, we're just going to brown them. Pretty basic process here. I'm just going to speed you through this really fast until we get to the next part of it. Okay, so the ground beef is cooked, and now what I do with it is I just take it, the whole pot, and dump it into this colander with a bowl underneath it to catch all the excess fat. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. There we go. And I do that just, oops, I hope I got that on camera. And so the reason that I do that is to get all of the fat, as much of the fat as realistically possible out of this meat. And I like to put it under a bowl instead of like in the sink. Obviously don't want to clog the pipes, but I like to save and preserve the fat that's in there. And then we just go and move on to the next one. And I set this aside and let it go for as long as I want to, and then I'll start canning them up. Okay, so the next step for this is just to scoop these into the jar. And then you're looking for 1 inch of headspace, and that is this line right here, this little shoulder thing that's at the top. And I'm a little bit below that, which is okay. We're just gonna make up that difference with the water. Half a teaspoon of salt. Fill it up. Let it settle a little bit. Cook it again. This time you want to kind of push on it. You're pushing kind of in. You just want to get the water in to replace as much air in there as there is. You just kind of want to smoosh it. Then we top it off again. Wipe the rim with our vinegar. Well, that was 2. I should do a fresh swap. Wipe the rim with some vinegar water. Put the lid on it. And ring. And into the canner. And then we just do that a bunch of times. If you put too much in, just grab a clean spoon and take it out. So I don't know if you can see it, but you can see right down here, it's a very obvious big air bubble at the bottom. That's what we're trying to avoid, because if you don't use the debubbler to get those bubbles out, then it'll mess with the headspace in there. And if you don't have the proper headspace, from what I read, it can mess with the vacuum. If there's not enough air in there, you know, to push the air out of the seal, and then when it's done, it'll just suck the seal back on there. And if there's too much or not enough headspace, then it can mess with that vacuum. Meaning, if you have too much stuff in there, then a lot of the contents of the jar can seep out seep out of the jar, and then that will mess with the seal because you'll have like food particles in the seal. And then if you don't fill it up enough, then there's not enough. There's too much air in there to be able to suck down the seal. It's late. My brain's not working. So one thing when you're doing this method, if you do this method with the colander and the bowl underneath it, at some point you're going to have to pour off the liquid into another container, because I don't know if you can see this. Probably go this way. There's a bunch of liquid, and because the liquid inside the bowl has reached to the height of the colander, so time to pour it off. I personally like to pour it off into like a wide mouth bowl, because I like to render the fat that is in there later on. I just realized y'all have a bloody garbage can in your view. I'm so sorry. There we go. All right, so we have the last jar into the canner. And now, pan slowly, looking for my lid. You always want to make sure you're looking through. Look through the right hole. I was looking through that one. I'm like, no, it's dark. Okay. So, with the All-American canners, you always want to make sure that you rub the this thing here, the seal. Rub the seal with petroleum jelly. I did that already earlier today, and I have never had an issue with doing that like twice. I usually extend it to like twice. So I'm gonna go ahead. Now I'm making myself all nervous. I'm gonna go ahead and do the petroleum jelly. So we have the pressure canner all bundled up. I couldn't figure out a way to prop you up on anything to show you that. So we got the petroleum jelly on the rim, and we got this all closed up. We got the gap here as even as I could get it, and locked it all down and cranked the heat up to high. And now we are just going to wait until it starts to vent out of here furiously, and then I'll bring you back. All right? All right, so you can see here, maybe you can see. I think you can definitely hear it. It's really hard to show that on camera, but this is venting steam, and it is really close to when we're gonna set the timer, but not quite. Now it's going something pretty fierce. Still can't hear it, or see it, but it's going, I promise. You can see it, maybe. Anyways, it's going, so I'm gonna set my timer. I don't know how to use that timer. Every time I try and use the timer on that stupid microwave, it just sets the time. And then, so that's why it says 6:22, because I tried setting it for 10 minutes this morning. And it was 10 o'clock. I had to move the All-American canner to a portable burner because it wouldn't maintain pressure on the stove. If you want to find out more information on that, check out this video. This has been at zero pressure for quite some time. And this one is a little bit trickier because you don't have anything up front that tells you, hey, this is off of pressure. So what I usually do is I just kind of test it. I wait longer than I think it will be, and I'm usually wrong. And I take this, always grab it with a towel, and you see, you can hear that pressure is still in there. So I'm not gonna take that off just yet. I'm gonna wait a little while because I wanna make sure that there's not too much pressure in there so we don't get as much siphoning. So, at least I think that's what it does. All right, so now we're working on the Presto canner load. So we got our canner all loaded, and we're gonna make sure that this little thing goes, and you can see through that. We're golden. So then we're just gonna put this on, which I prefer because you can do it one-handed. See, that's all there is to that one. That one is superior in that way. So now we're just gonna crank the heat up to high. Wait until this thing starts venting, and I'll bring you back. So we waited for this to drop, and that just happened. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the weight and wait about 5 minutes. So it's been about 5 minutes, and now I'm just going to kind of prop this lid up here a bit. Always open it away from you. I'm just going to kind of prop it and leave it there for a couple more minutes and let some of the steam, some of the steam escape. All right, so now we're just going to take these out of the canner. Maybe. It's in there kind of tight. Looks like we did have a little bit of siphoning in this one. It's a pinging. So now we're just going to let this sit on the counter completely undisturbed overnight for at least 12 hours, but really I'm not going to deal with this until I get home from work tomorrow. It's been a few weeks since we canned the ground beef together, and I just wanted to show you the finished product here. As you can see, it's a little bit pink. It's not going to be like the typical brown that you get out of when you cook it on the stove. And it's got a little bit of a layer of fat here. It's kind of very, it doesn't look, it's not actually as thick as it looks on here, but it's probably like a centimeter-ish or so, something like that. And so I just wanted to show you the finished product because I went to edit this video and realized I completely forgot to show you the end and show you the result. And so I wanted to go ahead and do that here. And I think we ended up with probably about between 40 to 45 jars. And so that should last us quite a while in there. And I like to can ground beef because it's just super handy to have, and it's really great to have in there, and you can mix it up. You can make any kind of a stir fry or a curry, or you can add it to spaghetti, or you can add it to eggs. You can add it to hamburger helper if you eat that sort of thing. And there's just all different types of uses for it, and it saves so much time when you're going through the week and you just don't have time to cook things. When you have meat that's ready to go on the counter, on the pantry, all you have to do is just throw it into whatever else you might be cooking. And if you can a lot, you might have other things that are canned that you can add it to, like some kind of a canned spaghetti sauce or just any number of things. I mean, it's just fantastic to have this on the shelf, and we use it a lot, and we really miss it when we don't have this on the shelf. I know I said it earlier in the process, but I wanted to make sure to throw in a bit of a reminder here, and that I am a super newbie canner, and I'm just learning how to can as I go. I've done a lot of things a lot of different times, but I still make mistakes, and it's always good to double check everything. Do your own research, especially before you start out canning. And you can do research on the National Center for Home Food Preservation, as well as the Ball Blue Book of Canning. Those are great resources to use for your times and recipes, as well as how to actually can. I definitely want to check out those recipes or those resources. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it, and it gives me a lot of encouragement when you do. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and make sure you leave a comment in the comment section below what you're canning, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.